Some of these weapons terrified entire armies. Others turned ordinary soldiers into tank killers. But the most dangerous one on this list wasn't the fastest. Number 8. The Luger P-08. Every German officer wanted one. Almost no enlisted soldier trusted one. The Luger P-08 was the most beautiful pistol ever issued to a military force. Precision machined, perfectly balanced, the kind of weapon that looked like it belonged in a museum case rather than a muddy foxhole. That was the problem. The Luger's complex toggle bolt mechanism required tight tolerances to function. In a clean Berlin armory, it was flawless. In the frozen mud of the Eastern Front, it jammed. Dirt, grit, frost, the Luger treated all of them as mechanical catastrophes. Allied soldiers collected captured Lugers as trophies throughout the war. They were beautiful. They were also why Germany eventually replaced them. The Luger sits at number 8 because a sidearm that can't be trusted when you need it most can't rank higher than weapons that never let their users down. But what Germany replaced it with was an entirely different story. Number 7. The Walther P-38. Germany looked at the Luger and asked one question: what if it actually worked? The Walther P-38 wasn't as beautiful as the Luger. It was simpler, more robust, built with the Eastern Front in mind rather than the parade ground. But it introduced something no military pistol had ever offered before: a double-action trigger that let a soldier carry it loaded with the hammer down. Safe, ready, one long trigger pull from firing. Before the P-38, loading a pistol under fire was a moment of vulnerability. With the P-38, you could carry it safely all day and fire it the moment you needed it. It worked in mud. It worked in snow. It worked in conditions that turned the Luger into an expensive paperweight. The P-38 didn't win any battles, but it was the sidearm soldiers trusted when everything else had gone wrong. Number 6. The stick grenade. Allied soldiers called it the potato masher. They weren't laughing when they said it. The Model 24 stick grenade was the most distinctive infantry weapon of the war. A steel explosive head on a wooden handle, designed to be thrown further than any round grenade ever could. Pull the cord. 4.5 seconds. 15 meters of lethal blast radius. But German soldiers discovered something the designers hadn't fully anticipated. Bundle 7 of them together, and you had a shaped charge capable of defeating light armor. They called it the concentrated charge. A group of terrified infantrymen with 7 stick grenades could do what weeks of anti-tank training couldn't always guarantee. The potato masher wasn't just a grenade. In the right hands, it was improvised ingenuity under fire. Number 5. The MP-40. The Kar-98K was a rifle for soldiers. The MP-40 was a weapon for men who couldn't afford to carry a rifle. Platoon leaders, vehicle crews, paratroopers jumping into Crete at night. Anyone whose job required both hands for something other than a full-length rifle. The MP-40 fired 9mm at 500 rounds per minute. Controllable. Compact. The folding stock meant it fit anywhere. Allied troops called every German submachine gun a Schmeisser, a name attached to a different designer entirely. They didn't know the correct name. They just knew the distinctive sound and knew what it meant in a doorway. But the MP-40 had a ceiling. It was a short-range weapon in a war that increasingly needed range. The weapon that could go everywhere the MP-40 couldn't was waiting at number 4. Number 4. The Kar-98 K-14 million produced, more than any other bolt-action rifle in history. Every front, every theater, every German soldier who fought in World War II carried one or trained on one. The Kar-98K was not a famous weapon. It was a universal one, so common it became invisible, the way wallpaper becomes invisible. At Stalingrad, German snipers using scoped Kar-98Ks fought a systematic duel with Soviet snipers across the ruins of a city. Not a battle, a chess match. One position, one shot, one death at a time. But it had one problem that became impossible to ignore. By 1944, every American soldier was carrying a semi-automatic rifle. The Garand fired 8 shots in the time a German soldier could fire 2. The Kar 98K sits at number 4 not because it failed, because the war evolved past it. Number 3. The MG-34. Before 1935, every army in the world divided machine guns into categories. Germany decided that was inefficient. The MG-34 was the world's first general-purpose machine gun. One weapon, every role. On a bipod, it was a squad automatic weapon. On a tripod, it was a sustained fire fortress. Elevated, it was an anti-aircraft platform. Mounted in a tank, it covered the flanks. Allied commanders who encountered it in North Africa sent urgent reports back. German infantry wasn't just better equipped. German infantry was structurally different. The squad wasn't attached to the machine gun. The machine gun was the squad. Everything else supported it. American and British doctrine was redesigned around one problem. How do you advance against an MG-34 without dying? But building one required 150 man-hours and a skilled machinist. Germany needed more guns, and they were about to build them faster than anyone thought possible. Number 2. The MG-42. Some weapons kill. Some weapons become part of a soldier's nightmares. The MG-42 fired 1,200 rounds per minute. At that rate, it didn't sound like a machine gun. Allied soldiers described it as a ripping sound, canvas being torn at impossible speed. The U.S. Army made training films specifically to prevent soldiers from panicking when they heard it for the first time. At Omaha Beach, a single MG-42 crew fired for 9 hours. The casualty estimates for that position alone run into the hundreds. But here is what made the MG-42 truly different from everything before it. It cost 75 man-hours to build instead of 150. It was manufactured in a lamp factory by an engineer who had been making lanterns the year before. Germany doubled its machine gun output without building a single new factory. The MG-42 didn't just change what German infantry could do on the battlefield. It changed what Germany could produce in a war of industrial attrition. And yet, it still needed a crew, still needed a position, still couldn't go everywhere. Number 1 could be carried by one man, and it could kill a tank. Number 1. The Panzerfaust, 1943. The Eastern Front. A Soviet T-34 is advancing toward a German position. The Kar 98K is useless. The MG-42 is useless. The MP-40 is useless. But one soldier is holding a disposable steel tube that weighs 5 kilograms. He waits until the tank is 30 meters away. He fires. The Panzerfaust sent a hollow charge warhead into the T-34's armor at a range so close the crew had no time to react. It could penetrate 200 millimeters of steel, enough for any Allied or Soviet tank of the period. It cost almost nothing, it required almost no training, and it turned every German soldier, even the exhausted conscripts of 1944 and 1945, into a potential tank killer. Before the Panzerfaust, infantry faced armor with fear and very few options. After it, every hedgerow, every basement, every burned-out building became a potential ambush. Allied tank commanders who had driven confidently through infantry positions in 1943 began advancing slowly in 1944. Because now the soldier in the ditch had an answer. The Panzerfaust sits at number 1 not because it was the most sophisticated weapon on this list. It sits at number 1 because it changed the most fundamental equation of the war. Before it, a tank could kill infantry and infantry couldn't kill a tank. After it, both could kill each other. Germany built some of the finest weapons in the history of warfare. The Luger for elegance, the Kar 98K for ubiquity, the MG-42 for industrial terror. But the weapon that most changed the battlefield wasn't the one that fired the fastest or the farthest. It was the one a single frightened soldier could hold in his hands and point at a tank and win.